Welcome to Relish Books. Today I am talking about The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. This is a collection of 3 books, so even though it says The Custom of the Country, The House of Mirth is the first one in here. So this is the first Edith Wharton novel that I've read, and I read it without really knowing anything about it. I did know I knew it was depressing, and I knew pretty early on that it was probably going to maintain that tone all the way through the book. It was depressing, it was tragic, but it was also really, really good. The depth that the author, the depths of social forms, of people's or humans' just natural tendencies and struggles against temptations, the depth of these things, the language she used in exploring these things was incredible. I think she is, I know she's famous, but I haven't heard that much about her. I feel like maybe she's a little bit underrated, honestly, because her writing was just mind-blowing. Like, in the first few lines, you get an idea of what the story is going to be like. You get a picture of someone that you can tell is going to be like a great literary character, somebody that you're not going to forget. I love characters like Lily Bart, and my liking this book could seem like a contradiction from some other books that I don't like, because I don't always like this type of book, a manners book, maybe you could call it, or books that just look at society or in a time and place in a very depressing way. Sometimes I don't like that. I think I've mentioned before that I don't like George Eliot. I am really not a Middlemarch fan, or some of her other stuff. But I do like this book, and it has to do a lot with tone, because the author doesn't really insert herself. She has a very distinct voice. She has a distinct style, but you just really enter into the character's perspective without it taking you out. And I really liked that. Maybe I extra appreciated it after reading some Jane Austen where she does that. And I don't like this. I didn't like this book as much as Jane Austen, but it's just really, really good. I loved her descriptions, especially early on. I was so, that's what really excited me about the writing, was her really fun and really spot on little similes and metaphors and stuff like that. She is delightful to read. But it was not, the writing itself was delightful. The story was not. It's dark. It's depressing. I had a hard time getting through it just because it was so stressful and emotionally draining in a way. But it was really, really interesting. Like, it was one of those books that while you're reading it, I could just like keep on reading it. But if I put it down, I had a hard time picking it back up, because it's so dark and oppressive. And for anybody who doesn't know, The House of Mirth, it's not at all mirthful. It's about this woman in, I really enjoyed the time and place, because it's kind of a society that I hadn't read much about before. But she's kind of living in this, the glamorous, super ultra rich New York society of a couple hundred? Maybe I should say 100. I don't remember the exact time period. I feel like it said, but anyway, a while ago, super rich society of New York City. A view of the society, it was strange that it was in New York, because it really felt European in a lot of ways, especially after just reading Jane Austen. These super rich Americans felt like the gentleman and gentlewoman class of the Victorian era, where they don't work, or the men the men do like money investments. It's a lot of like Wall Street stuff, where they make their fortunes. But just this pace of life, everything glamorous and all these fancy dinners and just spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on clothes and flowers and food and all these things. The forms of society, the things that are acceptable and aren't acceptable, the way that they shift with the time, who's allowed into society, who's not allowed in, the things that nice girls are not supposed to do, but the things that they now can do. It was just fascinating, a fascinating society novel. And it's about this young woman who has been raised to be an ornament of this society. This is the only life she knows of being incredibly rich. All her friends and family are in this set, but her father was ruined and she is poor, but she has no way to make money. And it dealt with this in a very, very realistic way. Like, you really feel for her. I loved, the best thing about this book is just her character development and the look at her character. The way that you feel like no excuses are being made for her. That she's constantly making bad choices. Like, she's constantly making the wrong choices to promote her well-being. But at the same time, it doesn't try to, like some other books that I've read that I don't like the tone of, it doesn't try to skirt away from this by saying she can't help it, this is the way she was raised fully. It gives her responsibility for her choices, but at the same time, you really feel for her because a large part of her circumstance is in the way she was raised. The time period that she was born into, the way her family worked. When she becomes poor to the point of having to go out into the workforce, you really feel this, you feel her desperation and you feel her kind of helplessness and despair because she was literally not brought up to any of that. There is no real work that she can do well. You know, it's to that point where she's willing to work and there's nothing that she can really do to support herself. And, you know, she's been cast out from all her friends. Might be giving away too much. It's a depressing book, and you can tell that it's depressing from the start, so I feel like that's not giving away too much. But the constant just emotional strain of it, it's draining, but it feels very real, which actually makes it a little more draining. It's super frustrating, the way she's so close a couple of times to what probably could have been happiness, but she's just, you really feel for her, and you can feel very easily what it would be like to be in her situation with the way that it's written, and just the frustration of constantly making the wrong choice and seeing that just a little bit too late. It's really sad, but a lot of the ideas are also really beautiful. It's definitely worth the read. Very sad. I did not shed actual tears. There was one moment near the end where I was definitely tearing up. Mostly just, it was actually a very sweet scene, and it was mostly just from emotional to me in some very personal ways, but throughout it feels really real, even though it's in a time and a place that I have no connection to. The writing is amazing, and it really takes you there and puts you in that situation and makes you really feel like what it would be like to be Lily. And she's just a magnificent literary character. She's almost like an Anna Karenina, but a likable one. I've complained before how Anna Karenina is just not a likable person. And Lily, well, she doesn't become a fallen woman to the point that Anna does, but her struggles feel similar, and her her lifestyle has not brought her up to be good, and yet she has conscience, and it's this constant struggle to be good, when her temptations are constantly for these things that would seem, things that are a little bit wrong but would make her life so much easier. I don't know. Her struggles feel very real, and even when she makes mistakes, all the time, she's still really likable. You like her. You're rooting for her to the point where I was a little disturbed, but to the point where you really almost want her to do some of the bad things that she's resisting, because you know that it would make her life easier, and you want her to get out of these difficulties, and you have to kind of stop and be like, well, it would be really wrong of her to do that. But it's what you find yourself wishing would happen in the story, because you want her to be saved, because she's really in a hopeless situation. And she's just a beautifully written character. The way that it talks about her physical beauty and her grace, it's just really fun, and I really enjoyed it because, for one thing, it never really described what she actually looked like. It just always talked about her beauty. So anyway, definitely not on the level of a Jane Austen as far as just being enjoyable, but amazingly written, right? Right from the start. It's amazingly written. It has a rich cast of wonderful and terrible characters with a lot of depth and development. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I might take a little break before reading the next one because it was depressing, but I really enjoyed it. Probably give it, I feel like 5 stars should still be kind of subjective, but of the type of novel that it is, I'm going to give it 5 stars. It is really, really good. So those are my thoughts on House of Mirth. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.